We don't really know where the world is gonna go, but now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep. But now everybody knows. Got to keep.
You don't have to be retired to receive tax-free income. The problem is the vehicles that we've been conditioned to believe to help get us there were never designed to produce income.
Got to keep going. What you want to be going, you will see.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's your destiny, be in harmony. We were never meant to be apart. What you want to be going, you will see. You can have everything you want. It's your destiny, be in harmony.
If you had a machine in your garage and all you had to do was put a quarter in it and then print it out $100, put a quarter in it, print it out $100, would you ever stop that machine from running?
But now everybody knows.
So what if you use that job that you hate as leverage to fill your machine so they can create income for you, so you don't have to worry about income?
We know where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep going.
Welcome back. Welcome to a very special stream. Matter of fact, this was provoked by a call that Donnell had this week, and it fired him up, and he dug into the maths. And I'm just going to throw this out here. If this is how fired up he gets with a challenge on a call, I would like to first just put it out there. I've got some requests. So maybe we can get him to challenge some of the things on my to-do list. You know what I mean? You might get in the maths about that. Those DIY projects, maybe.
I'm done.
Who knows? We could work something out, guys. Get in here. You're going to love this. Tonight is a little bit different. If you've been here before since the beginning, it doesn't matter. You haven't seen this part before. And it's a little bit of our story mixed in so that we could, because we needed to have the proof, right? Be able to do the math. But I think it's kind of cool to be able to show you guys like maybe a deeper dive into our machine and how it's worked. We haven't really fully explained how our machine is completely built, but you'll get a sneak peek tonight. So anything else you want to add before we jump in?
Yeah. So
tell them what happened on the call.
Well, here's what it boils down to. So, and I've gotten this question or this statement often, whether it's in comments or videos or whatever the case may be. So it's not the first time that I've gotten this question, but it was really along the lines of this. Why would I want a higher interest rate on the product that I have? Meaning, okay, let's say I've got a 5% interest rate on my home, on my mortgage. Why would I want a 7.5% interest rate on a HELOC? Like, how does that math? How does that make sense? How does having a higher interest rate on a home equity line of credit allow me to pay things off faster or do things better or pay less in interest? Because his math stated that, you know what, if I've got a 5% interest rate on my home, on my current mortgage, and I all of a sudden switched over to a 7.5% home equity line of credit, I'm now going to be paying more.
Yeah.
And I think on the surface, he's 100% correct. So let's show the surface. But in truth, if we're using a home equity line of credit the way we discuss, because if you don't understand how to use a home equity line of credit, don't get it. If you haven't done your homework around what velocity banking is and how it works and how you can use different debt tools to be able to eliminate debt or pay off things faster or leverage them to use them to generate wealth, don't do it. If you're thinking, I'm going to get a home equity line of credit and treat it just like a mortgage, you're making a mistake. But what I want to do is show the math around what if you took a home equity line of credit and used it just like a mortgage? What does that mean? How does that work out? So that's what we're going to do today.
We need the tea, Donnell. You missed the part, okay? The part is, what did he say? What specifically did he say about paying an extra 2% a month? What did he say?
It sounds stupid.
He said
sounds
stupid.
like you don't know what you're talking about. It sounds very dumb to get a 7.5% interest rate compared to a 5.5%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now
Let's
listen.
be stupid.
Yeah, listen, when he said, this guy literally just said the whole strategy is stupid. It doesn't make sense. He's not seeing the math. I'm with him. I'm team guy on the phone. We're going to leave him anonymous because it's okay if you call in and you challenge what it is that we're doing. That's okay. And you want to see, like, how can this work for me? You don't get it. Something's not connecting. It helps us understand how to educate, be stronger educators, of course. But what I love about this was he was me. He was absolutely me. Just doing this is where we came up with the term surface math, because that was the math I was doing, right? I didn't even want to do any more. One, why would we do more math than what's required? Who's doing that? Okay. Who's doing that? Nobody's doing that. Nobody wants to do more math than what is required. But that's where we get caught up, is because we do that surface math, we do the quick math, and then we don't see the long-term effects or the bigger picture, and we stop right there. The banks are hoping that we stop right there. That's how they win, right? We're conditioned to stop right there. Why would we go any further? If 7 is more than 5, clearly that makes sense. Why would we need to go any further? I was right there. So when he got off this call and he was like, okay, I have this is what I would like to do on Sunday, this is the math that I already have etched out. Okay. He was out there carving these numbers into the stones, y'all. And I was in for it, because I was this guy, and I had to be convinced in this type of way and be able to see it long term before I was even willing to stop calling it stupid or thinking that, what's wrong with you? Why would this make sense? Right? But here we are. And the truth is, we could have already paid off our mortgage if we wanted to. And we're going to show you how that's possible. But we're going to show you, like you said, what if you use this just like a mortgage? Because these aren't apples to apples products.
These are not apples to apples products. Like, for
Right.
the people in the back, this is not apples to apples products.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. So we are going to break it all down, and I think you're really going to enjoy this one. Let us know, do you like this style of figures and visuals that we have for you tonight? I like that feedback, guys. So that's just for me.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
All right,
A couple things though, because I know we got to jump in. I know algorithm says I should have been in it already. I get it. But here's the piece. As you're watching this, pay attention to the documents, because I'm going to bring out some loan documents of our own. Like, I'm really going to kind of peel back some layers here. And I wish the questions that the gentleman had of me as it relates to a first position HELOC, I wish we would all have those same questions of our mortgage. Because when I share with you this information, it's hiding in plain sight, but this is not how we approach it. So, again, I know we need to jump in. So,
Yep. All right, you guys ready? Let's roll.
So obviously, a first position HELOC is just one of those items, one of the pieces to the puzzle that allows us to build a machine that we have. And I just want to take you guys back for a minute. This is coming out of the 08 crash. We're finally getting our credit back in order, and we're in a position to now buy our home. And we've done the work through Velocity Banking, through leveraging a portion of my self-directed 401k to use as a lump sum to pay off some debt to help get ourselves in a much more credit-worthy position. So now we are now in a position where we are now approved for a mortgage to buy this home that we're actually currently in. And so I just want to kind of break down. This is we are, I'll call it, 3 pieces of this puzzle into this process, maybe 2.5 pieces of this puzzle into this process. And so the idea today is I want to break down, again, a simple question that was asked. Why would I pay more than, why would I pay 2% or more for a product that like, just the math doesn't math? I've got a mortgage at 5%, 5.5%. Why would I pay 2% more for a home equity line of credit? Like, it just does not make sense as it relates to how the interest breaks down.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair question. It's just, I think we have been, I'll call it, conditioned to not look beyond what's just been presented in front of us. And so what I wanted to do is kind of look beyond the numbers, look beyond what's been laid out in front of you, and let's understand or ask some better questions as to why and how things are the way that they are. So wanted to set some ground rules. So this is basically the I'll call it the setup. $8,000 in income on a monthly basis, $5,000 in expenses. That $5,000 in expenses does not include any mortgage, which means, in essence, it's about $3,000 in cash flow. Again, velocity banking has been done. We understand how to use a debt tool. So this is the cash flow after all of that. $8,000 a month in income, $5,000 in expenses, $3,000 in cash flow, and we are in the position to be able to pick up a mortgage, which is going to be somewhere around $2,500 a month. So if the mortgage is $2,500 a month and we've got $3,000 in cash flow, it's going to make things pretty tight going forward. And so in looking at a 30-year mortgage, what does that look like? Again, $8,000 a month. I guess that's the total. I was wondering, what is that? 74.94. $8,000 a month. But when you add the cash flow plus the mortgage payment, the ending amount is about $500 in cash flow.
I wanted to add this part because we forgot to say it. He asked, why wouldn't I just put the extra money on my mortgage?
Oh, yeah, we'll get there. Because you're absolutely right. That was also the point as well. Meaning, if this is my current setup, why wouldn't I take this $500 and just put it to work? Meaning, put it back into the mortgage.
Right.
Add an additional $500 a month on my mortgage. Now, let's think about that. I make $8,000. I've got $74,000. I make $8,000. I got $7,494 in expenses to pay to include the mortgage. Would you eliminate all of the cash flow opportunity that you have and dump it all into your mortgage? Would you? Does that sound logical? But let's just say you do. Let's just say that is what happens. Well, if you were to do that, you would actually put yourself in a position to where you would pay your home out faster. And again, I'm not suggesting this be done. I'm not suggesting that you do this. I'm saying, what if? What if we take all of our cash flow and just let it go to expenses and our mortgage? So again, $8,000 is the income coming in. And if we dump everything we have, all $8,000 into our expenses and our mortgage, what happens? So I want to kind of break down what that looks like. Oh, and by the way, the other opportunity is this. But what if we ended up with a HELOC? The mortgage, the interest rate on the mortgage, 5.5%. HELOC interest rate, 7.5. So again, same $8,000 a month, same $5,000 in bills. Remember, because we converted the mortgage to a HELOC, there's no $2,500 mortgage payment. There is an interest payment due, and we will get into that. But there's no mortgage payment of $2,500, which means all of the cash flow now goes towards paying off the HELOC. So this is kind of what I'm suggesting. He's saying, hey, I've got this 5.5% mortgage. I'm fine. I'm saying, what if you converted that 5.5% mortgage to a 7.5% HELOC? How would things be different? So kind of looking at things side by side. We've got the first position HELOC at 7.5%, 30-year mortgage, 30-year conventional at 5.5%, and a 30-year, if you're making that extra payment, it's still the same mortgage interest rate. But the key piece here is mortgages have a fixed rate, and the interest itself is front-loaded. We'll get into what that means, but bottom line is this rate will not change. Won't go up, won't go down. And the bank wants their interest first. Meaning majority of the $2,500 mortgage payment that's being paid, let's say 75% of that is going to the bank and towards interest. The remaining 25% is going towards paying down the principal. So we're making two separate payments inside of our mortgage payment. We're making interest payment to the bank and a payment towards our principal, and we're addressing both. And we'll dig into what those numbers look like specifically. But from a first position home equity line of credit perspective, the rate is variable. Now, you can get a fixed first position HELOC. I wouldn't suggest it. We can dig into that conversation later. But in most cases, the 7.5% can go up. And most people think when you hear variable that it can only go up. But that's not true. The variable interest rate on a first position HELOC can go up and down. Matter of fact, I'm a witness to it. I'm a witness to where, well, I think as of right now, our interest rate on our first position HELOC is like 7.7, but it started at, again, started at less than 2%. And I could have locked it in a long time ago, but again, that's a whole nother story. Bottom line is, you need a meme. You should just throw up a meme. Bottom line is, our interest rate is about 7.7%. And bottom line, like my point is this: it's a variable interest rate that has the ability to go up and go down. And most people don't realize this, but that interest rate, there's a few different types. Meaning you can get a first position line of credit that's based off LIBOR. And gosh, I can't remember, London Interbank something. I can't remember what LIBOR stands for, but the bottom line is it's a global rate, which means in some cases when America is having struggles, LIBOR is actually a little bit better because that interest rate is a bit more stable. There's not as much fluctuation. And sometimes, in some cases, it's lower. But in most of our case, most banks that we deal with, the interest rate on a first position HELOC is based off prime. And I wanted to just set some ground rules real quick. So I wanted to just reiterate some things. And that is this. In most cases, we have this income that we create, and we have this dollar amount that we put away in some form of a nest egg, some form of a retirement account in some way, shape, or form. And history has taught us, we've been conditioned to believe that you can take whatever you need to here and whatever you need to here to feed your home. Meaning, if you needed to take the tax and penalty hit on some dollar amount in your 401k so that you can put that down payment onto your home, you do it. That's how we've been conditioned. If you needed to go get another job, get a second job so that you can have enough funds to be able to put down on your home, we do it. But no one ever educates us around how can we leverage our home and how can we leverage our income to actually feed what we really need in times of struggle. Meaning, I think we would all agree that the objective is to put ourselves in a position to where we don't have to work forever. Or when we're placed in a position to where we can't, we would love to have some vehicle like our home, or some vehicle like some vehicle that our income has been being contributed to actually put us in a position to where this nest egg is a machine that can produce income for us on a consistent basis. And again, it's how do we leverage our home and our income to put ourselves in a position to where that can happen? We have not been educated this way. And so that's why this sounds so unorthodox as I kind of walk down this path. But I just want to kind of set that for a minute. And the next thing I want to highlight is this. I don't expect you to be able to read these documents at all. That's not the point. What I'm sharing with you are a couple of, these are actually our loan documents. It says up here at the top, closing disclosure. Closing disclosure can also be called, I think it's the payment details or the loan documents. And in addition to that, we've also been, I think prior to October of 2015, we were used to having the trust and lending statement. So trust and lending statement, closing disclosure, or loan details, regardless of what the document is, it's the information in the document that I just want to highlight for a minute. And I wanted to start here with this closure detail. When you're sitting at the table with the loan officer and you're about to sign these closing documents, what is your mind state? What is your main focus in that moment? I'll tell you what mine was, and I'm pretty sure Angelique's was the same. Mine was, hey, what is my monthly payment? I get it. I got to sign all these documents. I got to initial here, but my main focus, my main thought process is, what am I about to start paying on my mortgage? Why is that? Let's go back to this math. $8,000 is the income. $5,000 are the expenses. I've got $3,000 in cash flow. If she was to lay out, or if he was to lay out a mortgage payment of $3,000 or more dollars, I'm in trouble. So the concern is how much of my cash flow is now going to be eaten up by this mortgage payment. I know what the original conversation was, but when you start adding in closing costs and other, here, let me change this color quick. When you add in closing costs and other bits and pieces inside of this dollar amount, what does it look like? And so when we sit down and we're signing all of these documents, we tend to focus on what is that mortgage payment, and we miss some details that are sitting right there in front of our face. Meaning, in this case, this is a $366,000 home that we're purchasing, and the mortgage payment ends up being somewhere around $2,500 a month, $2,494, and due at close, cash at close is right around $20,000. Those are the key numbers to remember. $366,000 is the mortgage, $2,400 a month, or $2,494, $2,500 a month is the payment, and cash due at close is about $20,000. Now, again, using our personal situation, we had intentionally saved up enough to where we were, the original objective was to get rid of PMI. So we had about $50,000 saved up. And the math didn't math to me. So I pulled back and said, well, what happens if we do 3%, saved money on the interest rate? So there was a reason why we didn't put all of that down. But cash at closing still ended up being right around $20,000. Well, this is page 1. If I would have just simply gone to page, I think this page 4, maybe it's page 3, gone to the loan calculations, this section right here, again, it's blurry. You can't see it. I get it. Don't worry about the document. But what are the numbers? What are these numbers here? I kind of laid it out a little bit better for you. So in the loan calculations, what it talked about was the total payments. Meaning when we buy this home for $366,000, what's the total amount of payments that we're going to pay? That total is $710,000. What's the breakdown of that $710,000? Well, once we take the $20,000 out that we paid at closing, we're actually financing $346,000. So that $366,000, take out the $20,000 that the cash at closing, the remaining amount being financed is $346,000. The interest rate is 5.5%. But that's not the APR. The interest rate that we were given, that we were quoted, that we were provided based off this $346,000 is 5.5%. Well, the APR is always a little bit higher than the interest rate. The APR is, well, when you roll in the escrow account, when you roll in the property tax and all of those other things, you're actually financing more. So when you're financing more, that interest rate goes up a little bit. So it's actually about a 5.523 interest rate. Again, a little bit higher. So, okay, the home, 346 is what's being financed at 5.23. That interest being paid is a total of $364,000. I am paying more for this home. If I was to let it play out for 30 years, I'm paying more than it originally cost in interest. And so the total interest, total interest percentage rate, I think is what it's called. Total interest percentage rate. Most of us, I don't know that I've ever heard of anyone talk about the total interest percentage rate. Never, ever. But it's in there. Take a look at your loan documents. It's there, I promise. They're telling you what you're actually paying for this home is about 108%. Not 5.5, not 5.23%. What you're actually paying, if you let this run out 30 years, you're actually paying 108%. Now, this is our personal situation. You might have a bit more efficient one because maybe you put more down. Like, again, what I'm sharing with you is our specific situation. Like, this is exactly what these documents stated. And I didn't realize this, just so we're clear. I didn't realize it when we bought the house. I actually had to go searching for these documents. And when I found them, I went, wow. It's amazing what you didn't know, right?
Yeah, well, what you don't pay attention to, because
absolutely
the conversation is, why would I do this when I could do that? And the 2% is what was in question. 2% over 5%, but never was there an issue with 108 right. or 4 or right. whatever it is percent. 100% is definitely different than 5%. When we all agree with that,
just a little,
yeah. And but I like what you're doing here, and just because it's easier to use our numbers than come up with fictitious numbers so that we can show where you would find these on the documents too. I didn't realize they would be so blurry because you should have been able to see them. So my bad on that.
And I kind of went through, and I just didn't have time to make it any better. So, but again, focus less on the document. because you have this same document. Focus less on the document, but focus on, again, what were you mainly focused? It shows 366,000 at 5.5% is the interest rate being charged on this dollar amount, which gave me a monthly principal and interest payment of 2083. But when you add in the mortgage insurance, the principal and interest, the mortgage insurance, the estimated insurance on assessment, and the closing, when you add all of that up, it ends up being about 2494. So it's a
Yeah.
little bit more than what we were anticipating, right?
Here's the part that I wanted. Jesse, yes, we are live, by the way. Now you know. Here's the part that I wanted to say before you get into this next part, because we're about to go into like the head-to-head comparison, breaking down the math. Not breaking down the math, because I don't. Well,
Yeah, it's just more showing.
yeah,
It's
more
not
showing.
necessarily
There's
breaking
not,
anything
you don't
down.
have to do the math.
Exactly.
We already did it. Okay. The point is that this is going to make some people uncomfortable when you realize that there's an option. This is where I think people might click away, is because they realize that they could do something different. And once you learn that you can do something different, you are suddenly responsible with that information. And what will you do with that information, right? So sometimes it's easier to just stop watching, to just stop listening. I really want to encourage anybody who's feeling uncomfortable or feeling anxious about this information to, maybe you need to pause and come back, but watch all the way through so that you can see what the bigger picture looks like. Those who refuse to see it are going to, they have no choice. It will be shown to you. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we're going to show that to you too. So if you need to take a break, if this is causing anxiety, yeah, we understand that part, but we have to get through this, and we have to start changing the conversations to open up the windows on what we have been agreeing to and what has been normalized for so long. This is also part of the reason why an entire generation is struggling to get into a home. They can't even rent at this point, right? Like it's a significant issue. We have to be able to understand our leverage and how to use it and how to plan accordingly so that we have leverage sooner in life. Generations ahead of us are, you know what I mean? The newer, younger generations are going to need it because they cannot continue to do what others have done. Our world doesn't work like that anymore. It's not work harder, right? It's right now it is work smarter and figure out how to do that. So that's what I encourage you to do. Just keep watching. But I understand how this can seem like, especially if you are already down the road and you're not able to go back, right? And do something different. So that's all I'm going to say is I'm here with you. I was right there with you. I thought it was dumb. What are you talking about? Why are we having this conversation? Can't we just celebrate the fact that we bought the house? This
right.
is the milestone. By the way, how we bought this house is what I was thinking while we were signing loan documents. I was thinking, wow, everybody said I wouldn't be able to do this. Nope. Tons of people said I would never find a house like this, would never, ever, couldn't do it by myself. All these things, did it. And so when we were closing those loan docs, I was celebrating all on the inside. So I already knew the numbers. We had already worked all of that out. We already understood what it was we were going into. I had no idea what it would turn into. None. Okay, moving on.
So again, just to restate what's already been stated, whether we're talking about the closing disclosure or the truth in lending disclosure or the loan details, again, you have it. Go take a look at it. And the information is there. If we're talking about the truth in lending disclosure statement, again, it looks, if you've ever bought a car, you've seen these 4 boxes at the top of the loan documents when you went to go sign. This used to be what mortgages, or the way mortgages were structured. But after the 2008 crash in 2015, everything changed to a closing disclosure and the loan details. But the bottom line is the information is the same. And I'll just to restate, total number of payments, finance charge, the amount finance, the APR, which is different than the interest rate, than your mortgage interest rate. It's a little bit higher if you are financing, if you have an escrow account. If you have any additional dollars that you are financing, that APR is a little bit higher than the interest rate you were quoted. And then this piece, total interest percentage rate. It's scary looking. I think mine is a little bit, I have to believe, I hope that I'm an anomaly, because had I been sitting at that table during closing and someone told me that I'm about to pay 108% for this house, I would have felt a lot differently. But we do not spend any time here. This is not discussed during closing. What's focused on, again, I know where my head was at. It was, what's that mortgage payment? Okay, it's 2431. Okay, I can deal with 2494. Okay, I can deal with that. And then let's move on. Let's hurry up and get out of here. But I just wanted to kind of highlight that because we are all in the same boat. But let's kind of break down a little bit what that looks like. And I'm going to show you how we got to these numbers. Let's first start with the mortgage. Mortgage payment of $24.94. Again, interest rate is not 5.5, it's about 5.23. Loan terms 30 years. If this is straight off of the closing disclosure. This is straight off the closing disclosure, and that is the total interest paid on this home, $710,000, if this plays out for 30 years. Now I get it. Most of us are putting extra payments, so the goal is to not pay this. I understand that. But my point is, if we play this out for 30 years, that's what this looks like compared to a home equity line of credit. If we would have just simply replaced the mortgage with a home equity line of credit, again, replace the mortgage with a home equity line of credit in first position, what would that look like? Again, based off the cash flow, we would still be purchasing the same house. The interest rate is a lot higher. Okay, depending on the HELOC you get, it could be anywhere from 10 to 30 years as far as the availability of the open line of credit. Meaning, it could be a 10-year draw, 15-year draw, 20-year draw. I've seen 30-year draws. What happens at the end of that draw period? It converts back to a loan. So if it's a 10-year draw, at the end of the 10-year period, you now have 20 years to pay off the loan. It's no longer a line of credit that you can access the equity in to use. And if, keyword, if we approach this line of credit just like a mortgage, meaning I'm only putting the $3,000 on, I'm not going to do anything else with this vehicle other than put my cash flow in it and allow the balance to drop as I paid off or I paid down this mortgage. So putting all $3,000 into the home, it would take 18 years to pay off. And I appreciate this because I didn't make this slide, my wife did. I appreciate this right here. Let's break this down. And I love the term potential cost because I think that's true. When people get a home equity line of credit, a first position home equity line of credit, what exactly is happening? What's happening is the bank says, hey, you've got a home with a mortgage on it of about $367,000. We're going to pay off that mortgage with a line of credit. Pay off, meaning the mortgage no longer exists. So we're going to pay off the mortgage, pay off that 366 with a line of credit. And all we owe is that line of credit back to the bank. So do we owe a mortgage and we owe a line of credit? The answer is no. So this $637,000, I understand what's meant here. What's meant here is, hey, because I've got this original mortgage that was replaced, and there's a certain interest amount that's going to have to be paid over this 18-year period. You add this interest plus this mortgage, it equates to $637,000 in cost. But the truth is with a first position HELOC, you are replacing the mortgage. The mortgage is zero. There is no mortgage. What you owe is the amount that replaced the mortgage. You owe this $367,000 in a line of credit. And if you use it effectively, you can actually pay this off faster at a lower or for a lower dollar amount. Meaning, if you accelerate the payoff, you end up saving the amount of saving is the wrong word. You end up avoiding the amount of interest that is owed by paying it off faster. So I think this is a great statement here because this is potential cost. Again, surface math, that's what this would look like. But in truth, this is what you would end up paying back to the bank if you treated this as a mortgage and allowed this cash flow to pay down the line of credit. All right. Oh, know what? I don't want to go there yet. So I want to kind of break these numbers down a little bit. So I want to get into a little bit of the how. Like, how is it possible? What does this actually mean? And so for that, I wanted to actually, because you can do this as well, go to, pull it up here, go to the mortgage calculator. So again, make this bigger for you, because these are not numbers I made up. These are numbers that are pulled straight out of the mortgage calculator. So you can do it too. So we've got a $360,000 mortgage payment. And I did dump in the $20,000, the cash due at closing. I'm just calling it 20 grand. Now I could have put in 19,000, whatever, blah, 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 but I'm just calling it 20 grand. And the interest rate, and I'm using it as a down payment. This isn't 100% accurate, but you will see these numbers are scary close. And so 366,000 is what we bought the home for, put 20,000 down. That was the cash due at closing. I used the actual interest rate of 5.523, and the rest of that doesn't really matter. And so what did that equate to? It equated to total out-of-pocket cost about $24.94 in a mortgage payment. So close to around $2,500. Again, the same number. So these numbers are right in line. And how much interest? I'm sorry. And how much interest am I paying over time? I don't want to do that yet. Did too fast. Let's go. There it is. And how much interest in total is being paid? Well, the loan amount, $346. The total interest paid, $364. So the tip, the total interest paid for this entire vehicle, the total interest paid on this home over that 30-year period is a total of $710,000. Again, it's the same dollar amount. 710 compared to 710, same dollar amount. And one other thing I'll show is this also provides the breakdown of the amortization schedule. So if you look at it by year, again, these are the same numbers that I'm using. And now let's jump over to the HELOC. What would it look like if we got a HELOC instead? Hide the report. So with the HELOC, instead of financing the, 366,000, we put in the dump in, right? We're only financing the amount that we owe. So we immediately put down the $20,000. So we're actually only financing $341,937. So that's all I'm doing is adding the 20,000 here. So it's the apples to apples discussion. It's the same 7.5% interest rate. And the payoff goal I have is 360. That's just to give me time. And then the bottom line is the cash flow. The net monthly income is $8,000. The monthly expenses is $5,000. So what does it look like if I was to put $3,000 a month onto this first position HELOC? So let's look at the report. What it will show, and I'll just scroll all the way down to the bottom. Come on. I would have this home equity line of credit paid off 205 months. 205 months is about 17 years and a month or something like that. So it's about somewhere between 17, 18 years is what it would take to be able to pay off this first position home equity line of credit. And just so we're clear, I won't dig into it yet, but I've broken out all of these numbers here so we can dig into specifically what's happening between the two vehicles. And I'll get into that here in a minute. But the bottom line is we've got it. It's just what I wanted to show. So sweetheart, if you go back to the Vibe board.
No, we are on the Vibe board.
Oh, of course you are.
Yeah.
So again, comparing these two vehicles, meaning if I take 30 years to pay off this home, I'm going to end up spending about $710,000 in interest. If I take 18 years to pay off this home equity line of credit, I'd end up spending about $270,000 in interest, which is better. But that's not even the part.
Right. Well,
It's not even
because
the part at
again,
all.
because we're not, it's not an apples to apples, but we're trying to make it an apples to apples because most people are doing the math on how they should build their machine or what strategies they could apply to their own situation. And they're trying to compare them apples to apples. And so even if we do this apples to apples, it still wins, and we're going to tell you why. But you have to stop with this. You have to go beyond the surface math. That's
Right.
all we're asking you to do.
That's it. And so now, if we got a first position HELOC at 7.5%, and again, if we run this out for the full term to be able to pay off the home equity line of credit, you'd end up spending about $270,000 in interest. If you do the same thing on the 30-year mortgage, you'd end up spending about $364,000 in interest. This dollar amount here is what if, remember the numbers again, so it's $8,000 in income, $3,000 in expenses, $2,500 in mortgage, which means there's about $500 left over in cash flow. If that cash flow was added to that added every month to that payment, you would actually save a fair amount of interest, meaning you'd pay off the home faster and only spend about $211,000 in interest. Pretty positive. So
Well,
again, same 30 years, same 30-year mortgage. Same mortgage. Mortgage didn't change, but if you add that $500 a month, if you make extra payments, you are saving in interest. But are you actually saving though? This is where we don't confuse saving with not spending.
no,
Because if you were
this is
saving it,
important. Yeah, this
if
is
you were
important.
saving it, then it would be available to you to use to go do other things. So this is
Right.
more cost avoidance,
Right.
meaning this is interest not being paid. So there's no saving happening here. This is just interest not being paid. This is interest that didn't have to go back to the bank, but it's
Now,
not being saved.
right, which is really important because we hear this term of thrown around a lot of I saved this much money on a car, or I saved this much money on my mortgage. I saved where is the money? That's my question, is where is the money that was saved? Because it's not going anywhere. It's just it's reallocated in other ways, right? We don't have it anywhere or access to it, that same amount of money. This is part 2 of don't do the surface math, okay? This is where some people would say, okay, well, I went beyond the surface math. Look, it's clear to see that this is the winner. Why wouldn't I just do this? Because again, I'm saving, or cost avoidance, whatever you want to call it, Angelique, doesn't matter. Math is mathing over here. I'm not seeing why I need to go further. Please join us, continue, and come further into the maths with us.
And when you start to kind of break down the math in general, you have to start somewhere. And I like to start with what's the goal? What's the point? What's the purpose? Is the purpose to pay the home off in less than 30 years? Is that the sole purpose? Is the purpose to pay the home off? What are the commercials that they're running now on most of my social media feeds? Pay your home off in 5 to 7 years. Is that the goal? Is the sole purpose, sole goal is just simply to pay the home off in 5 to 7 years? Or is it, I want to be able to free up this cash flow so that I can put it to work? I want to be able to free up this cash flow so that I can go make more money. So the objective isn't, meaning the end game, the end goal isn't just to pay the home off. The end game or the end goal is actually to build and generate wealth.
And nobody who really truly has wealth is talking about how do I free up cash flow. One, they do not care about cash because they don't buy anything with cash. They buy everything with leverage. There it is. That's the secret, right? While we're over here, the rest of us, the other 98%, right? Wherever we fall in that percentage, we're focused on how can I increase my cash so that you can be taxed more? How can I increase my cash so that it can be tracked? How can I increase my cash so that the government can make decisions about it? They can't make as many decisions when it's on borrowed money. And that's why the game is, how do I gain access to more leverage? How do I find where I can increase my leverage? And to a lot of people, leverage has been repackaged as debt, right? Totally a different thing. And yes, it is, but there's good debt and there's bad debt, of course. And then there's just expenses that we have. It doesn't matter if it's a debt or not. How many of you watching right now have bought your iPhone or the smartphone, the cell phone that you have? I was going to do this, but then I was like, let me be modern. Okay. How many of you bought your phone You know, I have this on purpose. How many bought your phone outright with cash? Or how many of you are making payments and leasing it every month, right? It's a debt. But do you see it that way? Do you see it as a debt? Or do you just see it as an operating expense? And this is a smart way of being able to purchase a tool that you leverage to do business, to run your life, whatever it is, right? So think of it like that, and let's continue the math.
Thank you. So what's the goal? And again, we talk about this a lot because it is very important to focus on the true purpose of why we're doing this. And understanding that, hey, we only have so many compound cycles, right? So the objective is to put our money in place so that we can use it during the time that we're available, while we can work, while we can put our money to work for us, so that when we can't, we can actually live off the leverage, meaning we can put our money in a position to where it can generate more compound interest. Your money making money, and the money that your money makes more money. So if we're going to now look at our home as a vehicle that can be used to generate compound interest, am I concerned about how much interest I'm meaning? If the goal is to generate compound interest using our home, is a mortgage going to help us get there, or would our home being leveraged as a line of credit get us there? Because if we can just answer that question first, if we can just agree that that dollar amount that you're putting into your mortgage, whether it's the normal mortgage payment or an extra dollar amount in addition to that mortgage payment, how much access do you have? And so again, if the goal is to put our money in a position to where it's working for us, ask yourself, how much is your home working for you? And so again, it goes back to, we're doing the surface math because a lot of the people that I talked to, including the gentleman that said, hey, wait a minute, I've got a 5.5% interest rate on my home. Why would I want a 7.5% HELOC interest rate? Like, that math doesn't make sense to me. Sounds stupid. It's because all he's seeing is the difference between 5.5 compared to 7.5, not what is your availability of being able to access that cash, or that spread, or the dollar amount being the equity being grown inside of your home based off the payments that you're making on your mortgage. How accessible are those dollars? And in addition, don't forget about inflation. In addition, if we're again, based off this scenario, it was an $8,000 income. $8,000 income is somewhere around $120,000 a year in annual income to be able to bring home $8,000 a month. So if it took 18 years to pay off that HELOC, again, if we're treating the HELOC like a mortgage, if it took 18 years to pay off the HELOC, how much time was lost? And
Well,
so now
it could be adding the extra payments, right?
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the question is then, at the end of that 18-year period, how much do you actually need to be able to retire, or leverage, or use, or put yourself in a position where you don't have to work anymore? Like, what does that dollar amount look like? Meaning, what does $127,000 a year gross need to be? Well, from an inflation perspective, again, just simple inflation calculator, it needs to look more like $216,000. What happened during that 18-year period? How did you put your money at play to be able to put yourself in a position so that the income that you have is more like $216,000?
This is where so many people are waking up right now, because they have hit retirement age and they did not expect, one, inflation did not follow this 3% rule that everybody was goaling for, right? Just housing, cars, and groceries alone have not followed the 3% inflation. So what they thought, the lifestyle that they were preparing for back in the 80s, back in the 90s, whenever it was, now here, 2024, it's a completely different scene. And it's scary because you have to wonder, how long can I go with what it is that I have? And let one market crash happen, and now they have even less to work with, and they don't have the time to recover because they're not working. So what that means is they end up having to go back to work. But if they've left their industry, depending on how long they've been out, can they get back in to start trading their time for the same amount of money that they did before, right? Can they do it? No. So we talk about encore careers, right? You see a lot of people jumping out here looking for side hustles or whatever it is just to be able to generate income. If we were making plans based on government to protect us and make this possible. That's why they're here, is because they said, oh no, you missed the part back in the 70s when we said we were handing all the responsibility into your hands so that we didn't have to have the responsibility anymore. Remember that part? Well, when we said, oh, hey, we got you, just play in our casino, we got you. Everybody jumped in and they were like, you know what? This machine is hitting, right? They're looking for the machine with the good juju, right? And they're going, this machine is hitting. This is my golden ticket. I'm going to be okay once I get to that age. I paid off my house, so I have less expenses. Like, what are those mindsets that people had of how to prepare? Paid off the house, so that means less expenses. You are going to maybe downsize, right? That's an option. A lot of popular option, downsize into a smaller home so that the cost of living is smaller. Maybe be on a budget. You're on a fixed income because you have to make it last. None of that matters when you can't decide what that income is going to be, what it is that you're going to need. You can only guess. So the best thing to do is to play it smart and overshoot. Just do the math. We can't even go off of the last 20 years because the 20 years before that was completely different, right? So we have to play it. We have definitely be smarter, not harder. Work smarter, not harder. And we have the opportunity to plan. But leverage is where this is at. So this is so important. And I beat this drum all the time with inflation because not enough people are talking about it. If you put your money into a home that essentially, I don't know if you noticed the jail on a couple images prior to this, I put a jail on the house because you cannot get your money out. Now, if the plan is like itself, can you hear that? Wow. Sounds like somebody's in here with us, right? Their mic is on. Justin, can you mute yourself? I can't see him to turn his mic off if it is. Everybody can hear that, I think. Or maybe they can't because he's not on the scene. Okay, I'll just move forward. That's frustrating. Okay, my point is it's in a jail because you can't access it. Well, with capital gains, the increase in capital gains tax, that makes it even more difficult to be able to leverage. But this is why you see so many people doing the reverse mortgages, right? Because this is all they got. They worked so hard to pay it off, and now they're having to sell it back and go right back in debt in a different way and lose their ownership and the legacy and everything else that they thought that they were building. And that's just a sad story. So we have the ability to play it forward. I'm going to go see if I can get him to turn that off because we can hear a noise. I don't think you guys can hear. Okay, moving on.
Let me restate this because I said it pretty fast, but I just want to make sure this is clear. If you're thinking about a first position HELOC, no one who has a first position HELOC is treating it as a mortgage. A first position HELOC is a debt tool. We don't learn about debt tools. You learn about debt tools from doing velocity banking. So how do you treat your home? How do you treat your first position HELOC as a debt tool? What that means is you're putting all of your income onto that line of credit. And when you do that, you're going to pay bills from that line of credit. And once that happens, your cash flow, whatever that cash flow is, in this case, it's about $3,000 a month. That cash flow is going to live on the balance of the line of credit. And what happens is that $3,000 a month ends up paying down the balance of that line of credit faster. Well, the goal or the purpose or the point isn't to just pay off the line of credit. That isn't the goal. The goal is to be able to create enough space on the line of credit so that you can leverage and use the line of credit to do other things. This This is about you becoming the
It's
bank.
your mic.
So what would you like for me to do?
I don't know, but it's terrible.
Please tell me what you.
Here, I'm gonna mute it. Unmute yourself now.
It has been unmuted.
I don't know. This is you want to try refreshing your screen maybe? Okay, guys. Well, it'll just be us for right now. I went down because I thought maybe there was somebody who accidentally turned the mic off, and he was like, "It's not me, listen." And then I heard it by the time Donnell started talking, so our bad for that. No, it is still not a situation. I can still hear it. Can you guys hear him? I wish I could sign. Then I would just maybe you tell me. We'll call on the phone. Yeah, no, it's not good. Is it your actual mic, or did it switch over to a different mic?
Don't know. Let's see.
Oh, that's not good. Tell us where you're tuning in from. Maybe we could just see where everybody is for now while we figure this out. Put on some music. We're sorry about this technical difficulty that we're experiencing. Hopefully we'll get this figured out soon. Sounds like his mic gain is at max volume. Super max. Okay. Sounds a little bit better.
Yes, no, hello.
No, definitely not. Starting again. Okay. Well, we will be back after these messages. We don't have any messages, so I'm the messages. Let's make some announcements. How about we do that? First of all, if you aren't in our Facebook group, you should join, because it's a vibe, and we're trying to create a place where you can ask questions and talk amongst each other, meet other people who are on the same journey as you. That's where you can do that. Okay, you ready to try again?
You tell me.
Oh yeah, sounds good. Okay. Are we good?
Tell me. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yes, that was it.
Anything that you heard. So do we.
Did you unplug and re-plug in? Power it off, power it back on?
I waved my magic wand. I was like, there's not a whole lot you can do, right?
Well, there's those steps that I just said. It's pretty much the standard. But if you didn't do those and you have a magic wand, where's it been?
Right.
With all these tech issues. Yeah.
No.
Okay. Game on.
Plug back in and then reboot. That's about all I know to do.
All right. Game on, guys. Game on.
Good.
Yep. We're good. Okay. Let's get back into it. And scene. Reset. Okay. Here we go.
All right. So where are we? So really simple. What we're looking at is we got this $3,000 in cash flow going into that home equity line of credit. Again, if you're not leveraging the line of credit just as a debt tool that's being used for velocity banking, then you're not using your line of credit properly. The objective can still be to pay this line of credit off in 5 to 7 years. That's not a big deal. Like if you want to pay the line of credit off, that's fine. But how are you leveraging it? How are you using it? This debt tool in using velocity banking, all of your income goes in, all of your savings goes, everything you have goes into this line of credit. What happens when you do that? When you allow just simply your cash from your savings to just sit on the line of credit, what that does is that it reduces the amount of interest that you're paying over time. And so in doing so, it creates a vehicle, a system that allows you to leverage. And how much leverage do you have? You actually have the full leverageable amount of the amount that you had taken as a line of credit. So it's all available to you to be used however you would like. And so in doing so, putting this money now in a position to be able to work for you while within that draw period is the key. So it's less about what is the interest rate, and it's more about how is this dollar amount being used? Am I using this dollar amount to put myself in a position to where I can generate and or have more? So let's kind of look at a few things. Come here. So as I mentioned, from a line of credit perspective, and again, there's a lot going on this sheet, but I'll try to make it pretty simple. We've got a line of credit of about $366,000 that we immediately dumped that $20,000 on, which ends up in the ending balance being about 341 is what's being, I'll call it, financed in this line of credit. And so as the income goes in and as the expenses go out, that $3,000 of cash flow is what's driving down the balance. So if we just simply looked at, let's call it 4 years, 4 times 12 is 48 months. What does this HELOC look like after 48 months? Make this a little bit bigger. What does this HELOC look like after 48 months? So after 48 months, and of course it would be in the way. Bring this down. What does the HELOC look like after 48 months? So we're talking about a balance of about $295,000 on this home equity line of credit. Again, 4 years, 4 times 12, 48 months. You've got a balance left over of about $295,000 from an original $366,000 line of credit. So that difference between $295,000 and $366,000, all, what is that, $75,000 or so, $70,000? All of that is available to you by debit card. So what could you do with that dollar amount to be able to put yourself in a better position? And again, notice, I'm saying if you started 4 years later. Now, obviously, I wouldn't do that. This is a debt tool. So I'm going to actually be accessing it within year 1. But I'm just saying, what if? What does this look like? What does the line of credit look like at the 4-year mark compared to the mortgage? What does the mortgage look like at the 4-year mark? So again, if we were just simply paying the mortgage as normal, $2,500 a month, the mortgage is sitting at $326. We started at $366. That $40,000 of equity, how accessible is it to you? This is that conversation of meet me at Home Depot. You bring your equity and I'll bring mine. Your equity looks more like this, meaning if you wanted some access to the difference between the 366 and the 326, if you wanted access to that difference, you would have to apply for it. You would have to go back through some form of application process where your credit's going to be pulled the whole 9. Whereas me, I have access to my equity by debit card. What can I do with that equity right now to be able to help me generate and build wealth? While also, if the goal is to focus on paying off the home, I am in addition focused on doing that. And another thing I wanted to note, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say,
Right.
in this process, are you on the HELOC right now?
Yeah.
Okay. In this process, when you bought your house, think back to when you bought your house. When have you financed a car? What year did you finance a vehicle? And if you finance that vehicle and you got a really great rate, then cool, because access to cheaper money matters, right? But if you did not, and you could have financed your own vehicle, can you see how you could have walked into a dealership and paid cash for a vehicle, right? Could you see how you could have walked in anywhere and got a better deal because you had access to capital right then and there and taken advantage of that opportunity? And that's really why leverage is so powerful. This process right here has changed the game for us. We had 4 teenage boys all needing vehicles around the same period of time. And that was very stressful for us to think about how would we do that, and how would we provide them, get them wheels so they can either work or they can get to school. And we were able to do that because we essentially quickly became our own bank in that way. So for a lot of people, this means when you don't have access, your money sitting in your mortgage, who's using that money? The bank is using that money. If you're sitting in the mortgage and you go and you say, hey, listen, I need access to that equity because I need to help my kid, right? Get into a house. I need to help my kid get into something. I need to loan myself some money to take advantage of an opportunity. They get to decide whether or not that opportunity is good enough for you and good enough for you to have access to your own money. What are we doing? And why? Why is this still in place? Well, some people need those bumpers up, right? So that they don't hurt themselves, injure themselves financially. We understand that not everybody can take advantage. And to your point that you were mentioning before, if you cannot be responsible with a HELOC, with a line of credit, then don't get one. Don't get one. However, if you're here and you're watching, it says that you want to be educated on how to do this. And you should have access on how to do this. There's a lot of people out here gatekeeping this stuff behind courses and high fees in order just to get access to this type of information. And I get it that they have like bank lists and specific things that make it a lot easier, white glove service, as you call it. And those do exist out there. We see the value in it, but
and worth the cost sometimes.
Yeah. Especially for the convenience too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But the majority of people should not have access to the information and to learn how to do this, right? That's the part for me, is how many people are losing out simply because they don't even know that it exists. And part of the reason why they don't know it exists is because it is locked up, all this information. So we're changing that. I just wanted to mention that because for a lot of people, if they can think of when they went to the bank and they financed something through this period, if they can see how now maybe they could have been able to utilize this in a different way and possibly have saved themselves some money. But this is also used, not that we're comparing it in this way, but this is also why people are able to pay off debt. So if you have a 22% credit card, interest rate on a credit card, and you're making payments on that, and the credit card company is just winning while you're trying to make good and make those payments because you're paying your mortgage, or maybe you're trying to pay extra on the mortgage and you're trying to do all the math to figure out what's the best strategy to get out of all of this debt, right? Student loans, all of the debt. Leverage, finding your strongest point of leverage is where it's at. That's what's helped us the most. And all we can do is share what we've done, right? What our experience has been. But seeing what we could do in like 4 or 5 years blew me away. I had no idea that these things even existed or that they were legal, but they are.
Well, and I think this is probably the best possible point for a quick story, because, we got 200 months ahead on our mortgage pretty fast, right?
Yeah.
And
right.
The piece here is, let me just walk you through the how, because the how is a lot more simple than you think.
Okay.
Meaning, because you have a first position home equity line of credit and you have the ability to put all of your income on it, and if you're treating it like a velocity banking debt tool, that means that's where all of your savings goes. Well, this can absolutely be a vehicle where, if you do it right, you can put yourself 200, 300, however many months ahead on your mortgage just by some simple steps. And let me kind of walk you through it. So if you go back to the HELOC, sweetheart.
Yeah, you're there.
Show you real quick.
Boom.
So just again, a lot of numbers here, but I just wanted to highlight this one feature. So at the time that we had this HELOC, again, starting with a dollar amount of $341,000 is what the HELOC balance was. Just by simply saying, hey, Angelique's mom had sold her home. She had sold her home and she was in the midst of getting a payout of somewhere around $90,000. and she wasn't really ready to buy her next home yet. So at the sale of when she sold her home, my question to her was, "What is your plan for that extra $90,000?" She said, "Well, I'm just going to let that $90,000 sit in my savings account until I need it. It might be 6 months, it might be a year, it might be 3 years. She's going to wait until she can find the right property to be able to then use this dollar amount to be able to go access that property." Okay. So if that 90,000 is sitting in savings, what is the interest rate you're receiving in your savings account? She said 0.01%. And it's interesting because I opened up a Navy Federal savings account yesterday because I'm working on another thing, and they offered me a savings account at 0.01%. So her objective was to take that 90,000 and sit it in her savings account and let it sit there, not to spend it. Let it sit there, let it gain compound interest at 0.01%. I gave her an offer. I said, "Well, what if you allow that 90,000 to just sit on my HELOC and I'll pay you 0.1%? Hell, I don't have a problem going to 1%." But my point is this: if just by simply allowing that $90,000 to sit on the home equity line of credit did what? Well, it turned that 341,000 to more like 251,000. Well, where is 251,000 if we were to look at this as a mortgage? Meaning the minute I took that $90,000 check and deposited it into my home equity line of credit, it brought the balance of the home equity line of credit down to 251. Let's go back to the amortization schedule and see where $251,000 would be sitting. Well, almost there. 251,000 is approximately, come over here. It's approximately 14 years or 168 months here. So 251,000 on the amortization schedule, just simply by putting $90,000 onto the HELOC, immediately dropped the balance to where a traditional mortgage or amortization schedule would be right around 168 months. But that's not 200, right? Well, if you remember, I had stated we had saved up about 50 grand to put on this home. We only used 20. So there was a remaining $30,000. So what's 30,000 from this 251? It would be 221. So where's 221 on this amortization schedule? 221,000 on this amortization schedule is right at 202 months. So within 6 months of having our line of credit, the balance on that line of credit had dropped from 366 or 341 or whatever the dollar amount you want to use down to 221,000. And again, what's the purpose? The purpose is not to use my mother-in-law's $90,000. The purpose isn't to liquidate the $30,000 in savings. The purpose is to have a vehicle that I've got the distance between 221,000 and the original balance of 341,000. That's $120,000 of room. And if I wanted to leverage a portion of that room, now I also have $3,000 of cash flow that's going to keep paying it down faster. And that's exactly what we did. And I want to say we held on to that $90,000 for approximately somewhere around right around a year, maybe. How much interest was saved just for that $90,000 sitting on the line of credit? And the same conversation I had, here's the thing though, the same conversation I had with your mom, no, you can stay. Okay. The same conversation I had with your mom, I'd also reached out to my dad. Because, my dad is, I've shared this before, my dad is a cash guy. So he's got savings all over the place. So what I said, simple question. Hey, what would you say is your interest rate on your savings account? And his was right around the same, 0.01, 0.02, whatever that nonsense was.
Pennies.
Pennies. And I offered him
dollars,
the opportunity to make something better. And again, he couldn't wrap his head around how, and it was not worth me going down that path. But my point, sole point and purpose is this: having a vehicle that gives you options versus there's no way this could ever happen inside of a mortgage. There's nothing you can do with a mortgage other than refinance or sell that will allow you to leverage the equity in the home to be able to do other things.
What's crazy is even after she, got her money back, even after we financed we're financing, I guess, 4 vehicles. What else have we done?
It's a lot. We bought
There's
properties. There's a lot.
we've used the mess out of this HELOC, and rightfully so. But this is a springboard. But just the amount of interest saved in those times when the balance has been lower than higher, it doesn't matter because over time we're still in the same spot, but we got there faster because we weren't paying as much in interest. So this could be your tax returns. This could be a bonus that you get at work. This could be if you had any savings, like you see now where you would benefit more from having it sit here because you still have access to it. This is your emergency fund, right? This would be any other type of account that you have out there for your kids, for instance. It just sits here and it was actually working for you. That's what kind of blew my mind was no matter if we take money out of this machine, it's not working for us. And that was a big mind switch for me. Anything that I was wanting to buy at that time, a lot of people say, oh, we got access to equity, so now let's like rehab the house, let's upgrade, right? Let's like do improvements because we're going to get that money back with what's it called? Just thoughts just went out my mind. But the home will appreciate for more, right? Because you've made these upgrades. So it's easily justified to do that. However, most people who do that and they don't move out within that time frame of when those things are still trending and new and seeming like they are upgraded, end up having to upgrade again. So you're doing it for your own preference. But for me, this is where, if you've been here before, you've heard me talk about the countertops. That's where the money goes to die, is on those countertops when I saw this, because I realized that taking it out means it's no longer working for me. So we better really want something or need something, or it better be worth it to take it out of this machine, because it's actually it's not saving me money, it's actually making me money. It's drawing down more equity that we can use to then go make more money and put it in another machine. And you're going to learn about that here in just a moment. So I don't want to make them wait too long, because I really am excited for them to see this part. You still have to do the other comparison though, right?
So the only other, you mean the 15?
Yeah. With the 30 with the extra payment?
Yeah, so I don't think it's in. Is it in here? Oh, yes,
yeah,
you did
it
put
is.
in here. Okay. So let me get back to it.
So, and essentially, I made this into a visual form so that you guys weren't having to try to make sense of Excel spreadsheets, because that's not a vibe. But you've seen this. We've already shown it to you. This is just the proof coming from those amortization schedules that we saw earlier on the websites and the links that we shared with you in the chat. So I'll also update the description for the replay viewers so that you'll have access to those calculators as well.
And again, because all she's referencing here, so this is that same amortization schedule, same. But what if that $500 extra payment was being made into this vehicle? So again, as you walk down this amortization schedule, there's still a certain amount that's going to interest and a certain amount going to principal. So these $2 amounts together is what's driving that cost. And so when you slide all the way down 360 months, again, and if the goal is to pay this home off earlier, oops, I went too fast. If the goal is to pay this home off earlier, how long would it take for the home to be paid off if you were to pay that extra dollar amount? So we're talking 226 months. So, okay, it's far less than 360, but this 200, let's see, how long is that? 226, how many years is that? I can't remember. It's almost, there it is, 18 years. So it's a little bit over 18 years is the amount of time that it would take to be able to pay off that home using the extra $500 a month. But what could that $500 a month done for you somewhere else? Let me do that. There we go. if that $500 a month was working for you in another vehicle, what would that look like over that same 18-month period? And this is where obviously we go to the secure compound interest account. So if starting at age, here, I'll pick an age 40. Come on. Over that 18-year period, which would be what, 58? Jesus.
Wow, look at you with the tech today.
Tell me about it. $500 a month. So while $22,000 a year is not a lot, that's not the part. The part is, how much cash value is that? So we're talking, if instead of paying off the home, which it took you 18 years to do, instead of taking that additional cash flow and getting it working for you, putting it in a vehicle that can actually generate wealth for you, you would have an asset worth $224,000 on top of whatever that dollar amount was you still owed in your mortgage. I want to say it's somewhere around 200. I want to say it's right around this dollar amount is what would be owed on the 30-year mortgage. But the bottom line is, you now have a vehicle that is working for you, and if at a minimum that $500 was played out for that 30-year period. And again, I'm not suggesting that this is all you do, but my point is, even with a paid off home that it took you 30 years to pay off, by putting your cash flow to work, you still put yourself in a position where you've got $70,000 tax-free in income. Like there's so many layers that you can peel back here in looking at this from the perspective of the home equity line of credit. And again, approaching it the way that we did. If you were to simply, instead of $500 a month, take chunks, what would it look like if you took $20,000 chunks out of that home equity line of credit? Just being conservative. $20,000 a year would be $1,667 a month. And you allow that to compound. Let's see, I think it took us 205 months or 17 years to pay off. So 17 years would be 57. So if you took $20,000 a year and you out of the home equity line of credit and focused on getting that compounding, you'd have about almost $670,000 in cash value available to you. Because think about it, if you're putting in $20,000 a year, that balance is going up and going down. So you're not going to pay off that HELOC in 17 years. It's going to take longer. But that's okay. Why is that okay? It's okay because I've got a vehicle that has cash value and I have income of around $67,000 tax-free that I can take at year 17. So if I wanted to pay off the home, I still could. Because can we at least agree, if I hadn't paid the home off in 18 years, the amount that I would owe would be somewhere less than $200,000?
Right.
Couldn't I take that $200,000 out of this number and pay that home off with my eyes closed?
Right. Well, and you don't have income, and that's the part
That's
is
the part. And have an income available to you that will sustain your lifestyle. Because
well,
this is age 57. You play this out till 65. What does that look like? Come on. We're talking about $152,000 tax-free for the rest of your life. Just by putting this money to work, just by using your home as a vehicle to help generate wealth. Versus what the gurus are telling you to do. Become debt-free. Go ahead, sweetheart.
yeah, you can be debt free and broke.
That's
That's not where we're going, and we won't be there. So if you're going to join us in not being debt free and broke, then we got to strategize and we got to just change it up. Here's the thing though, we didn't make any more money. Matter of fact, we did this while we were making less money, right? We just got creative in how we could impact our machine or improve the performance of our machine. But we did not make more money. That was not a factor here. Not to say that making more money and putting more money sitting on the HELOC, getting more cash flow every single month would not improve the performance of your machine, right? That's a factor. What we're proof of is it works even if you are using what you currently have. You do have to have some cash flow, right? The more the merrier, of course. But at the time after we had gotten in this home, even with all of those factors combined, we went from you being in corporate environment. So it's essentially like you had retired, right? So we now have this sunset home. Just kidding. Now we have a home. Now we have these debts to pay off, but also your whole department got laid off. And that's when you just decided, like, you know what? I'm been solving corporate problems for a long time. I'm going to go out and make a difference where it really matters. And I'm not going back into the corporate environment. So this is when it's going to happen.
But let's be
We didn't have
very
that corporate
specific,
income.
though. That's the part. Let's be very specific though. Okay, we are however many 2 years into our home equity line of credit. We got a fair amount of room built up in it, and we're using it to fund our ski out. We're doing all the things that we've just talked about using and leveraging this HELOC for. But when you get laid off and there's no income coming in, where do you get the cash flow from to be able to do these things?
Yeah, right.
So let's be very, very clear as to what was happening. I was moving funds from the HELOC, putting it into my checking and putting it back into the HELOC. I was recycling the same dollar to pay the interest only payment that was only required. I was using the equity inside of the home equity line of credit to pay bills, and that was my income. I was recycling funds and using the same dollar more than once out of the HELOC
Well,
because the income wasn't there.
but we did have income.
No, I'm talking. There was a period where there was no income coming in, and
That's your
during that
version.
period,
I don't remember that part.
so and here's why you don't, because in the midst of being laid off, I was also doing self-directed, IRAs and 401ks as well. So there were these trickle of, okay, we got a few of our self-directed retirement account, the side hustle side of things coming in. But in essence, there were moments where that interest only payment for the HELOC wasn't paid by the income coming in. Income coming in went to bills. The HELOC payment
Okay.
was made by the HELOC. But that the piece there is you have the flexibility of being able to do that. Now, that's not something that you want to do long term. But my point is you have the flexibility to use this vehicle how you see fit. Versus if this was a mortgage payment, there is no play in that $2,500 payment.
Can you go back to the part where I put inflation? I think it's right at the top right there. We're just going to agree to disagree on that story. But here we are. We're still married on a live stream, guys. That's it. No, the inflation one. It was right at the top.
Sweetheart, I think I can read your mind.
Guys, do this to the screen. We'll get him to get there. It's at the bottom, right? Yes, 18 years later.
Okay. Please tell me where 18
Inflation.
years later says inflation.
Y'all, okay? Can you just pull it up? We are live. And they still together. Okay, here's the point. By the way, I did have one. Point is, one, it's not like centered or whatever. So I'm going to just try to forget about that part. Moving on, here's the point. When we're talking about the income that we're making now and how we're qualifying for our mortgage, bills, lifestyle, right? With the income that we currently have, even in our situation, we just don't know what could happen. One was like, we were just sharing when he had got laid off. The reason he got laid off is actually a wild story. It's because he solved way too many problems that he canceled himself out, his whole department. That's the truth, okay? And instead of them going like, wow, could you come and do this for another department? They were like, wow, you shouldn't have done that because now why do we need you in this department if you've simplified everything and systemized everything? And that was the moment where I was like, stop doing that. We're just come over. We're going to now do something completely different. And he was kind of you were waiting for the moment to just go full time anyway as an entrepreneur. But it's a scary thing, right?
Well, COVID was a beautiful time because I think it was COVID that allowed me to make that transition. I think without COVID, Without COVID, I would have never jumped off the cliff. But COVID forced me to work from home. And when COVID forced me to work from home, it forced me to build a routine as to how to build my business as well as do my job. And so it turned a very bad situation into something that became pretty special.
I can't breathe how you started that out. COVID was a beautiful time.
Hey,
Said
I'm telling you.
nobody, literally no one ever have said that. Well, you're on the record now. You're on the record, my guy. And that's that. Okay, so moving on. The point is that you don't know what's going to happen, but if you can plan to have protection, to be protected, right? So now we're looking at, it's not about the income that we can make today. That's not where the goal is. That's not what we're focused on, because if we're only focused on that, then that's where we tend to upgrade our lifestyle and we end up living at our means, right? Oh, now we can afford this, so now we're going to spend more. If we're focused on what is it that we need, let me put it in here, actually. I'm going to grab this and put it in the chat. The inflation calculator. If you don't have this on, I was going to say on speed dial, saved in your browser somewhere, like on your home tabs, save it somewhere just so that you have a reference to understand where you need to be. If we are looking at what that extra $500 could do, we're going, well, they need $216,000 to meet the income in this equation, right? The figures that we were using, you would need $216,000 in order to replace that lifestyle. Now, you pull out the fact that they're not paying a mortgage anymore, and how does that change anything? It actually doesn't change anything at all, because we don't know that things are going to rise at the rate of inflation, right? So that's a given. It doesn't mean that you're going to have $100 extra a month because you're not paying a mortgage. Actually doesn't mean that at all. We have no idea what the economy is going to look like. So, but this is where we're still using the 3% for rate of inflation moving forward for the sake of the calculator. If you're wondering, how do we get there? Once you stop trading your time for money, even the 4% rule, you got to have a lot of money, which means you don't have enough money to be spending on advancing your debt reduction plan, or expediting that by adding extra payments, right? You wouldn't have that if you were putting it all in a 401k or IRA or whatever your wealth strategy was, some traditional strategy. So what is it? If we're talking about $216,000 and you just saw that $500 in that same time frame, 18 years, is not going to get them there, how do they get there? And I think that's where you were leading to, is being able to leverage it in a different way, saying, is it more important that we pay off this home? Is it more important that we get to this income? That we get to this part where we don't have to ask people for permission, right? We don't have to tell them what we're going to use it for. If we need to borrow it for anything, we can, because we have not just this part, but we also have the cash value. So this is the cream off the top, right? This is your new 4% rule. This is your new, and this is tax-free, because don't forget, even if you do play in their casino, the money market, if you play by their rules, if you do everything that they say you can do, and you are trying your very, very, very best, you still are not going to be able to avoid taxes. And you don't know what the tax rate will be. So it's an open checkbook. And if we have the ability to avoid that, we should. Now, why should we? Because we keep hoping that they're going to tax all these billionaires and multimillionaires. We keep hoping that they're going to stick it to them because they have more money than us. So how are they spending less in taxes or paying less in taxes than we are? It's because they know how to structure themselves so that they don't have to pay taxes legally. And we can too. We just don't. That's the only difference. We can learn how to do this. We just don't. So now this is the new game. How do we set up tax-free income? How do we understand how to structure ourselves so that the money that we are leveraging and using is also tax-free? How do we make moves without having to ask permission? These are important steps. And this is what we're learning. So if you show them now where they could take that out, show them what $50,000 a year would have done in that same 18 year span. And where are they going to get $50,000? Could be partially from an old 401k. They could wrap that into a self-directed account and borrow it from there. If they are using it for the purchase of a home, right? Primary residence, you have 15 years to pay it back. Couldn't you have paid it back in 15 years if you were to use this strategy? Pay attention. Okay.
And see, and the key piece here is if you're using that or leveraging money inside of your HELOC to be able to do other things, it's being conscious of, based off what your cash flow is, how quickly can you pay it off? So that's where that dollar amount should be determined. So you're right. Can you or could you have put away $50,000 a year inside of a vehicle like this? $50,000 a year inside of a vehicle like this. And what is that? 50,000 divided by 12, 4167, I believe.
Yeah, we're not doing math with you live like that.
But the bottom line is, at age 40, what would it look like in just 10 years if you were able to put yourself in a position to where you could put away $50,000 a year? Still, again, in 10 years, you would be nowhere near paying off the HELOC, right? Because you're using such a large dollar amount that's prolonging or elongating the amount of time it's going to take to pay off the HELOC. If you were in a position to be able to put away that $50,000 a year, in 10 years, you would still have enough sitting in your cash value that you could pay the home off when you wanted to.
Wait.
But obviously, go ahead.
Can you do 18 years? Because that's what I wanted to show them.
I'm getting there, sweetheart.
Okay.
And when you add the remaining 18 years, which would be age 58, we're talking about $190,000 tax-free for the rest of your life.
There it is. That's
The
pretty close.
$1.8 million in cash flow. And the need was $216,000. So if the need was $216,000, you now have that capability and you haven't even hit retirement age.
Okay, now do this one right here. Stay right here. So this is the 18-year mark for somebody, right? What if they wait to join the camp of people paying off their home in 5 to 7 years? They started at 47.
So again, and so what you're saying is, instead of jumping out the gate and paying yourself first, I'm going to wait that 7 years to get started.
Yeah,
Even
I'm
if you're
put
doing
it on the
same,
house first, and then I'll get started. Right.
and still the age 47, not the same 18, but still 47 to 58. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. They waited 7 years. Now their house is paid off.
And just because you waited, you cost yourself about $110,000 because you waited.
And this is why compound cycles matter, right? This is the conversation around you can't go backwards, and leveraging time and leveraging the compounding power you have is in the time that you have for that money to compound. So that's my only point, is there's a lot of people out here who are focused on paying. Is it wrong to pay off your home early? No, it's not. But why does it have to be this, then that? Because a lot of people are only talking about their view. Now, to be fair, we're only talking about our view. We can only share with you what it is that we know and bring you as far as we can take you, right? But we've done some pretty amazing things in a short period of time, and we're watching so many people who are still doing the same things and the same strategies years and years later because they're married to an idea and they do not want to advance and learn and grow. That's sad. What is that called again, Donnell? Arrival syndrome, right? Arrival
Good old
syndrome.
Nelson Nash.
Yeah, where you feel like you don't need to learn anymore. You know everything. And I think that is horrible to be out here, especially leading people and not learning. We learn new things all the time. We have to. We have to learn new things all the time, not just because we want to know stuff, but because we want to use it. I think we want to level up and continue to make this machine more and more efficient. Can you bring up on the Viboard, there should be right underneath that should be our machine. Yeah. There it is. All right. Okay, well, that's kind of big, but you guys get the point. The point is that this is what ours looks like. This is what our experience has been. And I'm not even an expert at all of this stuff. But where I get my confidence in sharing our story, or at least where my knowledge ends and begins and ends, is the confidence of understanding the security behind how things are connected. That piece alone, I think, is where I have hope I'd never had before. Hope for not just for us, but for other people, that they can learn this too. Simply because it's financial security, which is a different. It's not financial freedom. That's a totally different concept. This is financial security in a different way. Understanding how leverage works and how other people have built their mega machines with leverage, not with a second job, not with putting all their money into their mortgage and focusing on paying one thing at a time. I think we can learn to make this more efficient, and it's not worth it for a lot of people who already have leveraged these types of tools and utilize this in their own home. It's not worth it for them to get out here and share, because it's a lot of work to be able to share, and not everybody's going to listen, right? It's frustrating too when you try to share it with somebody and they're like, no, it's stupid. Like your wife, okay? Like your wife, who could also be the one to call the idea stupid.
Here's the thing. Understanding how these items work together is really less about how they may actually work for you, and really more about what are the pieces missing in your own puzzle. Like, what are those items that belong here as it relates to you? Because the truth is, they all work together, and I don't care what the vehicle is. Let's say you are heavy in real estate. Let's say you're a day trader. All of those play a role in this process. It's just not a part of our machine, but they absolutely play a role. And usually it's skimming off the top. If you're doing something like, if you have a W-2 job and you're also day trading, trying to build, this is your side hustle that you're trying to build income with, what are you doing with that growth? Is it all going back into the system? Because in most cases, that's the case. If you're in real estate and you've got 30 rental properties and you're focused on getting 50, because in your mind, that's the math that it's going to take for you to be able to fire your job at some point. Is there an opportunity to take some portion of the equity that you have between all of these rental properties to put in a vehicle that you don't have to work as hard, so that you can get there
Right.
faster? Leverage the mortgages, convert the mortgages to a line of credit so that you can put those line of credits to work. Like it's ultimately it's what's the goal, and how do your pieces to the puzzle fit, and how can we help you? How can we assist you in helping them fit so that you can create your own machine?
Yeah, we have some questions, so I want to get to
Yeah,
that.
sure.
But if you are feeling like I did have a plan and I'm not ready yet because I do have some things that I want to achieve before I get ready, I hope what tonight has shown you is you don't have time to waste. You wasting time is actually costing you more money than you think. You're not achieving those milestones faster. You're just taking the long way around and having an excuse or a justification to it. It's okay if you have to take all the pieces that you have right now, like Legos, right? You come in with all of your pieces and you say, okay, this is what I was going to build with those pieces. This is what I thought I was going to create. And I was just waiting to find a couple more pieces so that I could actually just like connect this together. It's okay if you just get a consult to say, should I continue trying to build this thing? Or would I benefit more by starting and pivoting and doing it a different way? How can I do that math for myself, Donnell, so that I can feel confident and educated in making these decisions? I don't want to rely on somebody that I met on YouTube. I want to be able to do this for myself. And that's the part I know for a fact that you can learn to do this. You can feel super confident in going into this simply because you just were open. Sometimes, though, I think we kind of listen with a filter, like a loose filter, and it is very intimidating because there's not a lot of people having these conversations out there. And by a lot of people, I mean this should have been taught in schools, right? Can we all agree with that? We should already have access to this information. So this isn't, talking about anybody else out there. It's just saying that what we can appreciate are there are people out there who are saying, hey, this is my journey. This is what I know. And this is what I can share with you, because they too recognize that we have to start helping each other up, right? We cannot continue to say, well, I know how to build my machine. I'm going to come out here and brag about it, that I know how to build it, and not teach you how to build your own, right? That's not okay. That's not building community, and that is not lifting each other up. We grow farther and faster when we grow together, and we wholeheartedly believe that. We have questions, so I'm going to stop talking. So you ready to dive in? Oh, my point is just go to selfdirected.info, get on the calendar so that you can ask him some questions. That's what all of this information for this live stream tonight was initiated from, was a conversation that happened where somebody said, I don't get it. Doesn't make sense to me. And he was like, you know what? I love it, because you're not the only one that it didn't make sense to. I'm going to do the math so I can show you better than I can tell you. And that was the response for tonight. And I appreciated it because I was team guy on the phone, right? I was team guy on the Zoom call. I didn't get it either. It didn't math to me. And 5 versus 7 already, we're not even going to go any further because it just is a higher number. It doesn't make sense. Can you please explain it? Why you would be out here in the YouTubes talking about this? It sounds crazy. Cut it out, right? But if I didn't have the proof that it worked, I obviously would not be out here in the YouTubes talking about it. For him though, he was not able to see it because he can't see what we've seen. We just need to do a better job of talking more about our experience and the details around that. So if you have questions around what do you want to see? What would you like to see compared maybe? What situation do you have that might be a challenge that we could share and educate everyone with? That'd be great. Okay, we got some questions. You got something?
Questions. Let's do it.
Okay. Let me just turn this off. Okay, Tadams is in the house, and she says, do you need a first lien HELOC with simple interest? What is simple interest?
Yeah, I think simple interest is really, without kind of going into a whole lot of detail, all HELOCs are structured or designed or built with from a simple interest perspective. And all that means is you're paying interest on the remaining balance, or interest is being accrued on the remaining balance. It's not a situation where that interest is compounding over time. You're only paying interest on the amount that is owed. Is ultimately what simple interest is saying. And compare that to I'll call it a amortized mortgage. It's simple interest as well, but the issue is the interest is front loaded. So you're only paying interest on the balance that's remaining, but because the interest is front loaded, you're paying more interest to start. So it's all simple interest. It's just in how it's structured. So.
Yep. Okay, 24 Delta says, if I owe $40K on a 150K mortgage at 3.75%, wouldn't I save more interest in interest to make extra payments versus a HELOC at this point, debt-free otherwise?
I think in short, the answer to your question is yes, you would. But what's the goal? Like, again, let's say you have no more mortgage payment today. Awesome. What are you doing with it? Where's that money going? Whatever that mortgage payment is that you're no longer paying, what are you doing with it? And is there an opportunity to start doing something with it now? Versus how long will it take you to pay off that $40,000? If you pay it off at your standard rate, at the standard pace that you're going using your mortgage payment, how many years will it take you to pay off that $40,000? How many compound cycles have been lost by taking that however many number of years that would be to pay it off? What could you do today to get that money working for you? The leverage between, you said $150,000 mortgage, so that $110,000 of room, who's using that? That $110,000 of room, how is that money working for you specifically? It's not. It's actually working for the bank. Is there an opportunity for that $110,000 of room that's currently sitting there today to be put in a better position to actually work for you? And how about this? Let's say you want to pay off the mortgage. That's fine. What if you take a second position HELOC approach. What do I mean? Okay, what if you what if you took out a second position HELOC for 40,000? You only owe 40,000, right? We don't want to lose the 3.75% interest. I get it. I notice where you're going. It's a low interest rate. Why would I go get an 8% HELOC when I've got a 3.75% mortgage rate? I get it.
Right, right.
So what if you got a $40,000 second position HELOC at 10%? Let's call it 10. Who cares? And then you take that 40,000 and you put it right on the principal of that mortgage. So what just happened? You just replaced that $40,000 at 11%, 10%, whatever that amount is, and you just paid off your mortgage. You no longer have a mortgage payment. Well, when you no longer have a mortgage payment, what did that do to your cash flow? It increased your cash flow. So what can you do with that cash flow in addition to the cash flow you already have, to now pay back that 40,000 that you used? And guess what happens when you pay back that 40,000 that you used? You get to use it again, over and over and over again. To do what? Pay off debt, put yourself in a position where you're building income. Like, there's so many options available to you versus just paying off the mortgage.
Yeah.
So it goes back to, what's the goal?
The
Why?
examples, the examples that we showed tonight were what were we talking about? Somebody looking at if they would pay $370,000 or $211,000, right? Like, that seems like you could save a lot of money. You're still going to pay somewhere to the tune of $100,000 or more dollars, right? We can all agree to that. Let's just make it real low. At least $100K. Here's the thing though. What we saw was the same amount of money that would be put into this machine to save $100,000. To save $100,000, we forfeited the opportunity to make $300,000. Same amount of money, right? In the same amount of time. So if you knew that you could pay $100,000 and earn, and what you got back was $300,000, does the math on that? Is that stupid?
Well, let me restate, because I think you said it very, very well, but let me just restate. Because a lot of people think I'm focused on interest. I'm not. I am okay with paying the bank $300,000 of interest if, while I'm paying the bank that $300,000 of interest, I'm putting our household in a position to generate $1.8 million. Do I care about giving the bank more money if the money that I'm using, that I'm leveraging, is putting us in a position to where we are financially stable?
Secure.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
The part that I really wanted to show the difference of, which was that also that inflation visual, was the forfeiting, the paying of what if she left it? What if she didn't do anything? What if she took all of her extra cash flow? What if she leveraged her equity to put it into a machine, right? And used her cash flow to pay off that HELOC down so that she could get more money compounding faster. She could do that. There's a lot of different ways to do this. Yeah, it is not just one size fits all. There's a lot of different ways to do this. But when you are stuck on the surface math, you're robbing yourself of these opportunities. Because I think anybody watching right now would say, if I had the opportunity to trade $100,000, if I had the opportunity to trade $1 for $3, I would see that that's a no-brainer, right? But when you haven't gotten to that part of the math and you're stuck on the surface math, what you said was, that's stupid. It's stupid. And I agree, because I'm the same way. So I'm not saying that person, there's something wrong with that person or anyone who would have thought like that, because I'm people. I'm that people.
I am they.
I am they, for sure. Okay. Tom says, does the self-directed baby steps suggest, wow, shots fired.
Bruh.
Suggest second position HELOC for velocity banking and chunk year 1 and 2 SKIA dump, or go to first position HELOC if I can sell the wife numbers this and that boating season. Tom, we need to talk about punctuation first and foremost. And then you also asked about my earrings. There isn't a boat in these ones, but it is water into a sunset. Well played on picking that up. Yeah, boat theme.
So let me just kind of break it down into, should I get a first position or a second position, and when would that matter?
Okay.
It all goes back to the goal. I don't, because this is not a one size fits all, because I am confident mathematically you can hit the goal regardless of the vehicle you use. Usually I'm a fan of a second position HELOC when your cash flow is limited, because getting a second position HELOC puts you at less risk. I'm a fan of a first position HELOC when your cash flow is high enough to where, regardless of what happens with that first position HELOC, you can get yourself out of trouble. And here's what I mean. In this example, we're using a cash flow of around $3,000. 3 times 12 is $36,000 a year. That $36,000 a year over time would allow you to pay this line of credit off in a significant time. I think it was 205 months. But that's not the part. The part is, if we're truly using it as a debt tool, that $3,000 a month is not $3,000. It's actually more like $4,000 or maybe even $5,000. Why? Because if you are using it as a debt tool and you are paying off the debt, your cash flow is continually to get bigger. And in addition to that, you've got savings, you've got tax returns, you've got bonuses, you've got all of these other lump sums of dollars that are going into this vehicle, which means the amount of time that it's going to take you to pay this vehicle off is going to be so fast that you will have the space in the room to be able to put more of a lump sum into a SKIA to be able to build wealth. But if those opportunities aren't there, maybe a second position does make more sense, because I'm also a fan of being able to hold on and keep the low interest rate that you have, like the person before you having a 3.75% interest rate. I am a fan of, I get it. You want to hold on to that interest rate as long as you can. I'm petty. I say this all the time. So what I would do is, instead of I would get a second position HELOC and not pay off the mortgage. I would get a second position HELOC and pay it off just to where I have such a small mortgage payment, it doesn't even matter. Why? I can keep going back to the well and getting second position lines of credit as much as I want, because I've got this vehicle, this mortgage with this very low balance that's available to me. So I don't think any action that you're wanting to take in this sentence is a wrong action. I think it more depends on what's the goal and which one mathematically makes the most sense based off your cash flow.
Some people in the comments are saying, yeah, I'm asking some of this as I'm asking these questions because I'm trying to break this down for my significant other. They won't tune in. They don't really care to have these conversations. And I have to figure this out before I can really get them on board, right? So we can put the boat in the water. Like, we can't even go anywhere because she won't even get in the boat, or he won't get in the boat. Somebody won't get in the boat. And that's a frustrating place for sure. So I value when you guys ask questions, or when you have the opportunity to say, will you do this one thing with me? Will you get on this Zoom call? You can ask any question. You could be as negative and as petty, and you could pick this person apart. I promise you could be yourself and ask the questions that you want to ask. You can say all the things that you're thinking of, and I promise you it is okay to say those things. How many calls have you had where you've had somebody who was not a believer in this type of strategy, and they were in the back making faces, they were making comments, they were picking everything apart, they were listening only to part of it, right, while you were on the call, and then at some point, what happened?
There's always a shift, because so how often, how many? Like, I'd say weekly, but actually I kind of find those pretty fun, and here's why. Because I get it. I married one, so like I understand that it requires a certain amount of education, and it's, regardless of whether I get it or not, doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with what I think. It has everything to do with making sure I can be as descriptive as necessary to be able to help the person who doesn't get it understand it. So it's communicating in the terms that are required.
I will say, for me, because I was that person, I've been very open about that. Hearing you say it, though, just let me say it, okay? Being that person, I will say this. how I felt about that information was probably the heaviest part in moving from that place. How I felt about what he was saying about me. When he says us, that's great. Love that for him. When he says us, I'm still thinking about me. Am I worth it? Do I deserve this? Is this something that someone like me can achieve, right? If I don't believe it, it don't matter how many times you form your lips to say we. If I don't believe it, then I'm going to not be on board. I'm not getting in the boat. Part of that is because if I feel silly, if I feel stupid, that I know better than to assign that big of a goal or achievement to myself, putting myself out there to be disappointed or devastated when I've been working really hard, the best thing I can do is just be grateful with what I have, right? Make the best of what I've got. And I also was heavily subscribed to money does not make you happy. Money does not solve all things. Money is the root of all evil. There's a lot of idioms and sayings and songs that
And
we have,
conditioning.
right? That we have this belief that if somebody is focused on money, they must be greedy. There must be something else that's wrong. Why are you so focused on money? Well, it solves a lot of problems. And I promise, if you felt like you weren't having to do something that was taking your time away from your family, something that was super hard or out of your character, to have to be able to earn enough to provide and feel like you have a sense of financial security, how you feel about yourself and what's possible for you starts to melt away. Because all the things that you thought you learned about what you might have to do in order to achieve that, you've probably been told it's not worth it. You've probably been subscribed to some ideas around that, what's possible for you, what you're deserving of. And so a lot of times some people are just dismissing it based off of that. I'm not saying everyone's like me. I'm not saying that everyone just feels uncomfortable with having these conversations, but I will say money is a taboo topic for a lot of people. And it is very difficult to have these conversations because of how people feel about money. And it's not necessarily money, it's how they feel about themselves in relation to money. That's the part. So some people are, they want to control it. They want more of it. They are freaked out if they don't have a certain amount. And others are the opposite. They are freaked out if they have too much, right? And matter of fact, they'll even self-sabotage sometimes when they get a big bonus or tax return. It's gone, right? You had the hand up, to step up into to do something different, and you went, you know what? I'll be okay. I was fine back where I was. I'll be okay being there for a little bit longer, until you're not, right? And I think the inflation calculator is kind of a wake-up call for a lot of people, because you go, maybe we shouldn't sit here and be this comfortable, because at some point we're going to say we can't be anymore. We're not. And we're going to be forced to make different decisions, whether we like it or not. And if you think it's uncomfortable to have these conversations, wait until other people, government, etc., are able to make those decisions for you. That's way more uncomfortable, right? So moving on with the questions. Angry Koala says, if Donnell had seen the TIP at 108% interest, what choice would he have had? Do people have any negotiating power before they sign for that? It's a great question.
So I'd already headed down the path of a first position HELOC. But what I realized was in my personal situation, we would not qualify for a first position HELOC without having a mortgage. So the mortgage was already on the clock. We knew we would not have our mortgage less more than a year. So we were already headed down that path. My point around the tip is this, man, imagine how the conversation looks different if you understood the impact of what this interest rate and this mortgage amount is when you and your spouse are having this discussion around the type of house that you want and how we're going to leverage this home and all of those things. That's the part that it was for me. So at the closing table, it's too late. At the closing table, it just is what it is. I'm saying if I understood that this was the impact, because people say you're buying two homes all the time, but it doesn't really register, right? When you're sitting at the closing table and they show you what that monthly payment is, and I don't know, for me, I was only focused on what is the monthly mortgage payment because I wanted to understand how my cash flow was going to be impacted. This looks a lot different if I understood all of the bits and pieces and the nuances associated with how all of this is calculated and the whys. And because again, it's hiding there in plain sight. That's what the other part for me is. No one is hiding anything from us. It's all sitting there. They just intentionally don't necessarily go over it. And so now that I'm in this mortgage and now that I've learned it, my focus would be how can I treat the banks the way the banks are treating me? They've given me this mortgage. The definition of a mortgage, the definition in Latin at least, is a death note, a death pledge, meaning they know what they've laid on me. The banks understand exactly how they are leveraging mortgages. I need to learn as quickly as possible how I can put myself in a position so I can be that bank. And if you haven't heard anything else tonight, that's all we've essentially done. We've converted our mortgage into a first position home equity line of credit, which has allowed us to become the bank for everything that we need. I do not have to go to anyone's bank and fill out any loan forms because we have the ability to become and be our own bank. Not just for us. We can be the bank for other people as well. So that's more the part for me. I agree with you. There's probably not a whole lot there's nothing that I could have done at the point of signing those documents, but it's understanding what I'm signing, which that conversation that Angelique and I would have looked a lot different, and our path forward may have even been different as well. Because this wasn't the first home that I've ever purchased; it's probably about the third or the fourth. Imagine having this information 3 or 4 homes ago. Like, how much different would this process have been at this point had I had this information sooner? So,
Okay, I'm in here talking about earrings and lenses. Are you guys being serious about these earrings in the chat? Because I made these earrings, didn't I? You took me to go find some stuff to make earrings because I was like, you know what? They're just not stuff. It's ugly earring season, guys. It's not my fault. And had to make some that I liked, so that's what I did. We went over there to the craft store.
literally.
Yeah. And I was like, what's in this aisle? Because I can't see very good. And he's like, okay, I think this has got some stuff in here you could make things with. And I was like, glad we're here. All right. 24 Delta says, but I'm currently in year 9 of my 30-year mortgage. What
Got it.
I calculated is if I keep pace and pay off the remaining $40K, my total interest pay will be roughly $32K. Well, I think you kind of answered that in the response last time. Here's what I would do. I would go to the mortgage calculator that we popped in there, and it's really calculator.net that we're using.
Wait a minute, though.
They allow you to put in extra payments starting from a particular month or year.
I just want to make sure I'm reading the first sentence right, though. I'm in year 9 of my 30, meaning I've got 21 years left, or you've paid 21 years in and you have 9 left. Because if we're saying I've
Paying
got
off the remaining $40K. So maybe we messed up. Maybe they only owe $40K. No, that's what she said.
Yeah, they bought the house for $150, so only owe $40,000. I'm trying to understand because you can refinance and the clock restarts. So it is possible to have a $40,000 mortgage and be in year 9 of a 30-year mortgage, meaning you got 21 years. That is possible. I'm just trying to understand which it is, and here's why I say this: if you're going to take 21 years to pay off that remaining 40, how much compounding time has been lost in doing so? That's all.
That's a long time.
A long time. And again, I just want to make sure I'm reading it right. So maybe I've only got 9 years left of a 30-year mortgage. Okay, but still, if you're going to take 9 years to pay off $40,000, what else could you have been doing during that period to put your money in a better position? That's all.
Right. Well, that's why I wanted you to show them what would happen if they waited 7 years, because that's a whole compound cycle and it makes a huge difference on the income. A lot of people talk about, well, you could build this tax-free, this cash value, and you could have all this access in year 1. What are you going to do with it?
Right.
Because what you're looking for is how does it create tax-free income, and how does it continue to produce that income so that I don't have to pay taxes, and make sure that I know where my exit is. That's what I'm trying to know. I'm not trying to go somewhere and then somebody say, okay, stop, you're there. This is what you got. Can you imagine if you're driving down a freeway, taking a road trip somewhere, and you know those big stretches where there's like no gas stations and you have to plan it out when you get gas, right? But what if you're going down the road and you're thinking to yourself, I have enough gas to get to the next one. But then life says, no, this is your stop. This is where it is. And you go, I would have made different decisions had I known this is where my stop is. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And that's why we have to plan, right? We have the opportunity to plan, and we can. Well, I'm loving these questions. So Tadam says, what if it's a balloon payment? CFI doesn't work really. You have to restructure that loan, right? You have to restructure that loan, right?
Absolutely. I look at balloon payments no different than ARMs. I think my first home, I was playing around with an ARM because my thought process was, if I aggressively pay down the mortgage early, I'd never get it was, moral of the story is yes, you have to refinance out of it if you're looking to do something different. But whether you're talking about a balloon, ARM, adjustable rate mortgage, regardless of what that option or opportunity would be, the moral of the story is it's a loan. It's closed ended. What you're looking for is an open ended product. You're looking for a product that you can put money into and get money out of. So even if you have something that has a balloon associated with it, you could still do a second position HELOC, pay down or pay off what you need to get outside of, so you're not impacted by the balloon, and then pay back the line of credit. But the key piece is having an open-ended product that you can get money into and get money out of so that you can leverage it to do other things.
And Nathan's in here preaching. He says, remember, money together is more effective than money separated. Using a debt tool allows you to have all of your money working in one place. It cuts the time. I don't know if people can see me or hear me if I don't know if it cuts off my audio. Okay. It cuts the time it takes to pay off debt faster, thus lowering the amount of interest you pay.
That's it.
That's it. It's math, not magic.
Definitely not magic.
Yeah, the HELOC calculator, they used to say that on there, right? Math, not magic. I'm looking for questions, and I thought we had a bunch starred, but I think we've stopped at some point.
I'll scroll back up. No, I'm not.
Okay. Yeah, I put a Q. We haven't gotten to your question, put a Q in there. I want to bring up Mark. I saw this earlier and I wanted to bring it up. Thank you so much, Mark, for your support. By the way, give us a call. We would love to talk to you also. Said that last time. Hoping to see you. Yeah, hoping to see you. Book a time so that we could jump in there and just chat about what it is that you know and what value you could bring in regards to taxes. That's this part we can't really talk about, but it's a piece of the pie, right? Every time I'm blessed to catch the both of you live sharing these hidden life-changing financial lifeboats warms my heart. There should be 6,000 people viewing this. Thank you. Thank you so much. We've been talking about that. Like, how do we get more reach? How do we reach more people? And I think it's because the particular topics that we cover are so unusual out here. We're not talking about particular trendy examples, and we're a little bit more, maybe we're just different. I don't know. We'll figure it out, though. Thank you so much. How we can grow and how we can reach more people is from all of you sharing us out.
That's right.
So yeah, we really thank you and we appreciate that a lot. Okay, maybe I missed one here.
So I've got
Tom.
Yeah, I think we just found the same one. Yeah.
Okay, Tom says, should we be using a HELOC as a 10-year play since it's the interest-only period? Otherwise, it's just another mortgage vehicle, P&I, principal and interest.
So here's my take on that, because I've got one too, right? because I don't speak in term when you hear me talk about a first position HELOC, very rarely do I speak in terms of it's a 10-year draw, 15-year draw. It has a draw. I will acknowledge that it has a draw period, but here's my take on that. Around year 7, I'm going to be working on converting that remaining period into a brand new home equity line of credit. To me, I will never go back to a mortgage. So I get it. I don't know where interest rates will be. But around year 7, our focus will be on, okay, we've got about 3 years left. So we need to focus on transitioning whatever this dollar amount is into a new first position HELOC. And here's the key. If you're using this process effectively, there's not a lot of a balance there that you really have to worry about. So your ability to be able to refinance into another first position home equity line of credit should be far easier than it was initially. Now, if you are using your first position home equity line of credit and the balance is at its highest point, because again, from my perspective, it should be fluctuating, right? So if you're trying to refinance that HELOC at its highest point, okay, it might be a little bit challenging, but the key piece there is you focus on, during that period of time, hey, I'm 3 years prior to this becoming a mortgage. I'm going to spend these 2 years, these 3 years, this 1 year focusing on whatever I need to do to be able to get that balance down as low as possible and then refinance into another first position home equity line of credit. And I think one other piece on that is when you have a first position home equity line of credit, I also believe it's easier to get another. There's features that I wish our home equity line of credit had. It just does not. But because we've been doing this for as long as we have, and things have become so efficient, there are products out there through the PNCs and the other companies or first savings banks that offer sweep accounts inside of their home equity lines of credit, which is pretty efficient. Like I do wish what we have was one of those. So I think the process not only gets easier, your mind has been open to where the other opportunities are and other banks that offer products like this. So it makes the process a little bit easier as well.
Yep. Okay. Everything we're talking about, though, making the process easier, making it more efficient, making whatever you're building, your machine run faster, is really so that you can have more life in your years and years in your life, not have to pick one or the other, right? Talking about whose mindset impacts how far you can go or when you can get started. All of that matters. And for that, we always anchor back to the concept and how inspiring and impactful the story of the boat and why we give away the boat. Because this boat is just a visual reminder of the decisions that we make along the way. How open are we to improving how we're holding on to the handles, right? This story of this British rowing team who, matter of fact, people called them stupid for continuing to sign up for the Olympics and qualify for the Olympics because they sucked. They were horrible. And they were tired of hearing people talk about them that way. They started to believe that about themselves because every year they would go with a little bit of hope in their pocket, right? A little bit of hope in their boat. And they would row till trying so hard. And people were like, oh, they showed up just to be mocked, just to be bullied, just to be the clown in the water, right? Essentially for years. And they just got sick and tired of it. That's really how, like at the core root of this story, that's what prompted them to start asking this question. They were tired of being sick and tired. And they wanted to win. They felt like deep down inside, there was a little candle burning that made them believe it was possible for them to win the Olympics, but they had to prove it. Do we really believe this? Are we willing to do everything that it takes to win the Olympics, the gold? Could we win at least something? Could we just not be the ones that always suck out here? Can we just do that? Can we change the narrative on the future? Because we're repping our whole country out here, right? And they got tired of it. So they had to ask themselves, like, let's get real. We're either going to do this or we're just going to stop. We're opting out. We're not going to put ourselves in this situation anymore. And so they asked themselves this one defining question. And this was how they won the gold. And if you've seen this before, you can't see it enough times because we're inspired every time we see it. This is why we give away the boat. In 1998, a British rowing team dreaming of the Olympic gold found themselves ranked 7th. Their focus had always been on the competition day, but they realized the keys to reaching their highest potential were hiding in the decisions that they'd make over those next 2 years.
Faced with two obvious choices, continue their current path and expect the same result, or give up, they discovered a third transformative option. They united under one guiding question: will it make the boat go faster? Every decision, every action was weighed against this mantra. If the answer was yes, they could or would have to do it.
If the answer was no, it was forbidden, non-negotiable. Prior to the competition, this team was doubted and ridiculed, but no one knew what they had been doing. And once they hit the water, they were nearly unrecognizable, achieved their pinnacle, and won the gold. So we ask you,
What is your goal? What are you willing to do to achieve it?
will your story feel unrecognizable, even to you? Are you willing to light your beacon and stay focused, stay committed? Is your story non-negotiable, or are you waiting to find out how you ranked? Your financial future is not a game. You are only competing with yourself and those in the boat with you, your family and the many generations to come.
Will this make the boat go faster? A sounding alarm, a beacon of clarity amidst turbulent life decisions.
It's not just about speed, but direction, purpose, and an unwavering commitment. Every choice, every sacrifice aimed at the goal.
The first agreement this team made was to become fully self-directed, making their health their wealth, adopting a new perspective on their time and freedom, and the decisions they could fully control to reach their goal.
Will we make your boat go faster? That is our pledge to you. Our mission is to arm you with knowledge, strategies, and insights to ensure that not only you reach the goal, but you do so long before your race is over. Okay.
Wrong page.
Where are we? So, whoa, here we go. All right, we're gonna spin for the boat. If you missed it, just get in here. We'll refresh the screen so that you can get in here too. Hashtag boat in the chat, and then we're gonna spin to win. Somebody's winning a boat. If you've already won a boat and you want one to give to somebody else, we are okay with that too. If you're here and you're spending time with us, you can get all the boats. All right, let's go. Who's it gonna be? By the way, my earrings are a hit in the chat right now. I'm loving that for me.
Congratulations.
Yes. She out there giving boats away, changing lives. She had somebody waiting by their mailbox like, okay, you said you were sending me a boat. Where's the boat? We love that. Okay, just tuned in and loving what I'm hearing. Thank you so much, Alter Ego. Just see, we got more people. Let me refresh it now.
Yep.
Okay. This should do it. I'm gonna go right back. Hashtag boat in the chat. If you're new here, get yourself a boat. Rewind to learn why we give away the boat, or watch any of our live streams. We always talk about it. Okay, here we go. Who else is getting a boat? Tom.
Congratulations,
Tom's on
Tom.
fire. Well, I'm glad I get to send Tom something now.
Yeah, this one's for his wife.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I'm gonna send a note to your wife, Tom. Unless you don't want me to. Some people I fold up a note like back in high school. Sometimes I do that if I'm feeling about that. If I'm feeling a little high schoolish when I'm doing the notes for the boats. Okay, here's the boat. For those who are new here, we give away the boat, but it also comes with the story so that it is a very giftable thing if you want to hand it to somebody else and share this sentiment with them. We encourage you to do that. Okay, I feel like there's more people in here, so I'm just gonna time. One more again. All right, here we go. Who's it gonna be? Getting the boat. Who's it gonna be? get in a boat. Well, we know what we got to do when this happens. We got to change it up. It works. It works every time we do it. We change up the energy, it'll stop picking the same people. See?
Congratulations.
Okay, J. Keom. Probably didn't say that right.
I think you
That's okay. You know who you are. Here's what you're going to do. Congrats on winning, by the way. See, they're in the chat and they're just like, what? I didn't even think I would win. That's why I was late getting in here. See? Look at you.
Congratulations, Jay.
Look at you winning. Did you put the...
Nope.
Okay. If you won here, go here to selfdirected.info/live and get your boat. It's also in the description. I put a link down there too. So pretty accessible. If you forgot, you can probably go back to any live stream, selfdirected.info/live, go down there. Now, if you won and you haven't claimed your boat, that's okay. You can claim it. If you had to log off for a second, you didn't see that you won and you saw in a replay that you won, that's okay. Come get your boat. Some people don't claim them. Yeah, we got unclaimed boats in here in the dock. We got a marina of unclaimed boats. It's like 5 of them. You know who you are, but some, you never know what people are going through, or what they're doing. When they come back, there it is. But we try to get them all in there. I have never gotten a boat. Tadams, did you, I love that we've given her a nickname officially. Like, she probably never ever was called this in her whole life until now. And now everybody in the chat also refers to her as Tadams. Yeah. She's like, I feel like I need a boat. We feel like you need a boat too. Did you put #boat in the chat? Do you see her name come up?
I did see it roll through.
Okay. Well, at least that. All right. William, you got to put #boat in the chat. Unless you've won previously, fill out the form, and then that way I won't mess up the address again. We had to go digital because of user error from somebody. I'm not going to mention any names. It was me. It was definitely me. But stuff happens. You know what I mean? We can't all copy and paste effectively or efficiently. Sometimes it messes up. Who knows? Sometimes you don't know. And that's that.
The whole process was going to hell in a handcart.
Oh, gosh. If you follow us on any of the other socials, we had the biggest argument on our way to go get tacos the other night because I said, something's going to hell in a handbag. And he was like, pause. What? What are you talking about? He was just absolutely not. It's not a handbag. When have you ever heard a handbag? And I said, that's what you say. He said, no, basket.
Bruh.
Who says basket? So I get on the IG, right? And I'm like, listen, you guys, help me settle this argument. My husband's saying something crazy over here. He's saying hand basket. Okay, so I look it up on the Googles, and turns out some people say hand cart. Some people say bucket. Going to hell in a bucket.
Oh,
Who's
it's
saying
hell in a
this
bucket
stuff?
or hand bucket? Yeah, that's weird.
Hand bucket? I don't know.
Weird.
So then I asked Instagram. There were so many baskets in the comments, y'all. I was shook. I've never heard people say hand basket before.
I think it's regional.
So I thought it was regional, and I assumed that all my people from Colorado would be coming in like, of course it's a handbag. Why would you want to put it in anything else? Right? They were in there like, it's basket. What are you talking about? So I thought maybe I got bougie at some point, and I was just like, you know what? Let's make it a handbag. I don't know where it came from, but there was like one person that showed up for me, and they stood on my hill with me, and they were like, it's handbag. I've only known it as handbag. And I was like, thank you, because I sound crazy. Now, I do also know this person. But that doesn't prove anything, right or wrong. The point is, never heard this phrase before, and many ways to 10, there's many ways to go to hell. That's the point, okay? You could go in a hand cart, in a handbag, in a hand basket. We don't want to go. It doesn't matter what you're going in if you're going, right?
That is true.
Point is not to go. So that's the lesson in all of that. It's just don't go at all. That's the stream. That's the lesson. Okay.
Let's get out of here.
All right. Thank you guys so much for, people are saying it's a Southern thing. I don't know. People are just tuning in. They're like, what are they in here talking about? They're just married live. Like, why? Okay. We're going to go let y'all finish the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. We know that time is the most valuable asset that you have, and we're so grateful that you spent it with us. Any last shares?
Nope.
Okay. Well, we like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
so stay tuned,
Stay protected.
stay focused.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique,
And I'm Donnell.
and our goal is to help you.
Get self-directed.
And to do that, we have a ton of free resources, so don't sleep on those. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you back here on Wednesday. Have a great night, guys. Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get
Get self-directed.